good. How are you?
Not too bad. Sorry about the noise.
Hey,
I was
Mark.
telling Todd that it's raining where I am, as you can hear. So
No worries. It's been raining here for like a week, and my whole yard is underwater. It's weird.
Where do you live, Mark?
really,
Yeah. I'm Florida.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice, nice. So we haven't had rain here. I was saying in about a month, which is unusual for us at this time of year. And of course, when I have to record, it is pouring. But
It's not bad.
yeah,
I don't
it's
really hear
it's
it at
not bad.
all.
Yeah, it's raining here in
Yeah.
okay,
Vancouver as well. I mean, I guess that's not a surprise, being that we're in a rainforest. So,
right.
That's
you know,
right. Yeah.
it always blows my mind when people in Vancouver are like, "Man, it rains so much here." It's like, dude, look on a map. We are literally living in a
Yeah.
rainforest. Like,
Yeah.
it's
What'd
it's
you
like going
expect?
to
Yes.
Arizona and be like, "Fuck, it's hot here. Is it always so hot here?"
Yeah. It's
yeah.
like coming to Florida and going, "Oh my God, it's so
Right.
humid." Duh.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what did you expect?
Yes,
Right
exactly.
on.
Let's get into things here. So you have a massive social media platform with your photography. Did you ever envision this happening?
No,
Who
not in
does,
a
right?
million years. No.
Yeah.
And I've had this conversation with people before. Like if I was to go back in time, say 10 years ago, and was like shown what I am doing now and how I'm doing it, I would have said, "You're absolutely out of your mind. No way."
Right. Right. So
Yeah.
when did things kind of start to take off for you?
Uh, oh, I think when I started doing a lot more stuff in actually Canada area, when I started getting some content from some eagle stuff that happens there, it was it
Cool.
was it was kind of a slow, steady roll until that point. And then I started getting some really good eagle stuff that really just kind of pushed everything over the edge. And from that point, it just kind of snowballed
Hmm.
like fast.
Where did you get that eagle stuff? Was it in Squamish?
No, it's um, let me think. It's north. My geography is horrible, so forgive me. But it's north of Vancouver Island. You can only get there by plane or boat. Um, the area is Big Bay. Trying to think of the island. Stewart Island is the name of the little island. But there's a really cool natural phenomena that happens there. And I don't think it happens anywhere else in the world. Where when the incoming tide comes in, it gets pushed through this narrow body of water, and it goes from like 2,000 feet to like 1,000. And there are fish migrating at the bottom, and they get pushed all the way up 1,000 feet. And that quick surge fills their air bladder with water. I mean, with the air, like it expands because of the difference in atmospheric pressure, and they basically fill up like a balloon and float to the surface, hundreds of them at a time. And there are literally hundreds of eagles waiting for this flood tide to happen. And when it happens, they're everywhere. I mean, like it. I've tried to describe it to many people, and it's a you can't accurately do it. You have to just put them in the middle of it and say, okay, it's going to be very overwhelming because there's going to be hundreds of them around you in every direction, coming from every direction, sometimes up to 50 miles an hour. So it's a big. It appears on the outside as a big chaotic mess, but once you kind of get into it, you understand it and can kind of start to read them and everything. It's a crazy
They love
phenomena.
it.
It's
You're like,
it's
it's a
absolutely amazing.
smorgasbord. Like, it's great.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Absolutely. And they do a different thing there too that's fascinating because the fish are a little bit smaller. They're a hake fish, and they're smaller hake, about this big. So they eat on the fly. They will go down and they'll grab it and they'll stuff it in their mouth and swallow it whole and then turn around and grab another one. I've seen them get three in a row, like go, swallow, go. And if it's a big feed, they'll get so many that eagles have a crop that they store food in. Sometimes they'll stuff one in and one will fall out. So for them, it's always like a matter of feast or famine. If it's going, they'll take as much as they can because they know that it might not be there in the future. My
Right.
cat is my cat is gonna go crazy here. He's gone into my guitar closet. Sorry,
So
and
when
he's
you're
gonna
in
cause
like a
some kind of
chaotic
chaos.
thing world like that, like how do you decide what you're shooting in? What's your line of thinking at a moment like that?
It really depends on what you're after. So in the photography world, you always want to try to fill the frame as much as possible with your subject, whatever that is, for the most detail, be it either for still photography or video. So me, I'm looking for birds in a specific range, within a certain distance from me. And everything else I kind of just watch and learn from just in that distance. So I'm really looking for something close. And then after a little bit of time with them, if you pay attention, you can learn they all have little subtle signs that they're actually going to come out of the sky and grab a fish. So once you kind of learn to read those body behaviors, you can easily determine which one is worth your time to actually kind of follow. The problem there that a lot of people have is they will pick one bird in the sky and they'll follow that bird around with their camera. And in the time that they followed that one bird around in 30 seconds, 10 other ones have come down and got
Right.
fish in front of them. So it's a matter of just familiarizing yourself with the behavior of the animal, and understanding these little subtle things that they do that are going to tell them, that they're going to go in. So
Yeah.
I think everybody in the wildlife world, you want a head on shot. So you're always looking for stuff coming right at you. That's always the best, as opposed to a butt shot. Nobody wants to see the butt of a bird flying away. Although there is a subreddit for bird butts
Right?
on Reddit. But so ultimately, if you can, you want the wind at your back and the sun at your back, because then you have them, directly lit coming on at you, because they're aerodynamic and they use the wind to fly and to get lift. So they fly into the wind almost all of the time. So you want the wind to your back and the sun at your back, but you can't always have that. In this place, especially because you're in a tidal rapid where the water is moving very, very fast, your footing is not always stable. So you have to go with the literal flow of the water and then
Hmm.
hope everything else falls into place. And it doesn't always happen. So
Yeah.
that's part of the wildlife thing, is like
Right.
always
Yeah.
adapting and changing, because it's never the same thing twice. Even if you went to the same place every day for a year, it would never be the same experience at the same time.
Yeah. And there's a lot that goes into it that people don't realize, right? It's not just taking your camera out and taking a snapshot of something, but what got you into photography in the first place? Has that always been one of your interests? Like, I know you're a pretty creative guy. We'll get to that a bit, but like, has this always been your passion?
Photography has not, I wouldn't say always been my passion, but I've always dabbled in it throughout my life. Like, uh, I joke with my dad and I say I blame you for this, because as a young kid he would come take my brother and I off into the woods and camping, and like introduced us to nature. And he gave me his old Minolta camera and would load me up with like a package of film and say, go, you have X amount of shots and that's all you have, but have fun. So I would do that, and as a kid, I had no idea what I was doing. And my parents were divorced, so my dad would come get my brother and I on the weekends. So it was kind of neat. Every weekend, he would show up with a box of developed film from the week before, so I could see what I had done right or wrong, or just what it was. And then I'd have another chance at another set to go. So that, I think, kind of pushed me in the direction of wanting to really learn more about all of these animals around me. And so I did. I spent a lot of time outside, and almost all of my free time just kind of enjoying nature and taking what back then we would just call like snapshots.
Right.
But I didn't really get, I would say, serious with photography until much, much later in life. Much, much, much later. Maybe, let me think, maybe like my early 40s. I'm 53 now.
What?
Um, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a great
Yeah.
window of time. From high school till
Yeah. Yeah.
40. What did you do then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God, I did everything. You name it, man. I've had a wild ride so far. My dream, like, as a kid, though, was to be a rock and roll star. So I played guitar. Started playing guitar at 13, and was in a band with my brother. He was the front man. We never really made it out of Florida, but we got to be pretty high up that ladder in Florida and had a lot of great opportunities and a lot of good times. Um,
That's awesome.
but when that became obvious, yeah, it was one of the coolest experiences of my life. Like, that's a hard one to describe to people. Like playing live in front of an audience at a good show is really unlike anything else you'll ever experience on this planet, in my experience.
I
And we
bet.
we did some amazing stuff, and I mean, we can talk about some of that stuff too if you want.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
But when that was obvious that it wasn't going to work anymore, or when it felt like it was becoming stale to me, I knew it was time to try to do something else. And the photography thing was kind of It was unintentional. At the time, my late wife had this idea. She came to me and she said, "Hey, let's sell everything that we own and get like a little RV caravan and just travel the United States because I want to do this while I can." It's almost like she had a premonition that she wouldn't be around and she knew that she needed to do this. So I was like, okay, that sounds insane, but I'm for it. Let's do it. And so we did. And that kind of started my photography journey at the time. I've told the story a lot, and a lot of people wonder, like, well, how did you do this, like, financially? Many people don't know this about me either, but I've written a lot of books, and I've had a few books, lucky enough, became bestsellers. So
No
at
way.
that time, one of those books became a bestseller. So I didn't have to have a 9 to 5. I could kind of free travel and collect these royalties that I was collecting from the books, and just go and learn photography. And that's what I did. Give me a second, my cat. Sorry.
No worries.
My cat's a
He,
funny little guy,
he's an
or funny
attention
big
seeker
guy.
back there.
Yes, yeah, yeah. He's a little feral.
Yeah.
But that whole process was really interesting, and it gave me the freedom to really do photography. And I started to document our trip and take photos of all the places that we went through the United States. And when we got into Colorado, I fell in love with the San Juan Mountains. I'd never experienced anything like that. I come from flatland of Florida to these big snowy craggy peaks that were just amazing. And I started taking tons of photos, started actually diving into the actual ecosystem of cameras and buying cameras, and learning a lot about them, how to use them, what all the settings meant, and how to make all of these photos. And it was interesting, like with cameras, you're really balancing the light. Like you're constantly micromanaging the light through 3 different settings on the camera. And you're putting a little bit here, a little bit there, and a little bit there to make your image look a specific way. And it can be hard in the beginning to understand like the trade-offs of moving the amount of light from one place to the other. But I had this moment where I was like chasing little hummingbirds around at about I think it was about 11,000 feet up, which was really high up for me. It's a really beautiful mountain valley where it all kind of clicked, and I suddenly understood like the ratios between all of them, and how to actually properly do it. And I joke about it and say, I don't know if it was the lack of oxygen to my brain because I was up so high, or the sheer beauty of this mountain valley that I was in Colorado that did it, or maybe it was both.
Yeah.
But it was literally like I call these moments in my life like a cosmic slap. It was like this
Yeah.
information all of a sudden went, and I was like, oh, I get it now. Whoa,
Yeah.
okay. And
Your
it kind of made
epiphany.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then I just kind of started granularly fine tuning it. And so this whole experience of traveling and being in a new place, surrounded by new things, like everything was new, like the culture, the food, the people, the sights, the smells, the animals, everything was different, kind of changed how I saw the world, like completely through the lens of a camera. It really taught me to see things that I like that most of us glaze over. Like you just go throughout life not even really paying attention to like reflections of things or light or color or the
Right.
way the light plays on this thing or that thing. So it kind of gave me a new set of eyes. And when we decided to come back to Florida, I had all of this knowledge of the wildlife of Florida that I had spent my whole life with, and now I had this like kind of new set of eyes to train on these animals with all of the stuff that I learned. And for me, it always was a matter of wanting to be able to see things that these animals are doing that I can't see with my own eye. Like I want to be able to see like the beak and the detail in the beak, or the eyes or the feathers. I want to see like the osprey's talons coming into the water the
Right.
moment before they catch a fish. So it was just out of curiosity that drove me to do this. And because I had this new set of eyes from the traveling and all these experiences, and I brought it all back to like my home where I already had familiarity with all these animals that I'd spent my whole life with. It kind of just made sense to put the two together. And I started doing that. I started photographing all the birds here back in Florida, and I would have these amazing experiences every time I'd be out somewhere photographing. I don't know, like a pelican or a heron. An osprey would photobomb me every single time. They would just come crashing in the water, grab some huge fish, and kind of fly off. You're like, hey, look at me. So I started really, really paying attention to them more and more and more and more, and kind of became infatuated with them. I started trying to photograph them more than other birds. And I would go out and I'd spend my morning like at these swampy places or wetlands, photographing stuff. And I would come home and I would be so excited with what I'd captured. I'd sit my family down like the old slideshow, and I'd say, check this out. This bird did this crazy thing. Look at this. This one caught a snake. Look, it's amazing. And like, you get these crazy things happening. And my son said to me, he said, Dad, this is unbelievable. I can't, like, you got to make a YouTube channel. And I was
Yeah.
like, this was in 2017. And I said, no, I don't think anybody's going to care. Like, it's just me kind of goofing off with my camera in like a swamp. And he's
Right.
like, no, I'm telling you, like, Dad, this YouTube thing, his generation, he's 27. So he grew up with YouTube as like this, like, I don't know, like this holy grail of achievement, this crowning
Hmm.
achievement that
Yeah.
kids wanted to do. And so he said, "Well, you just do it for me. Just make one video for me because I think it will be very successful." So I did. I made one, and it was actually kind of successful. And I was like, "Oh, maybe there's something to this. Maybe you're right." So I started to do that, and I started to do it in the idea of doing it in a way that I wanted to do it, which was not really have me in there too much, but in a way that I'm kind of like bringing you along with me on a trip and then telling you the story from the animal's perspective and kind of teaching you about the animal. And so that's what I started to do. And that kind of just snowballed. And here we are now. So
Wow. That's a crazy
it's,
story.
it's kind of,
Yeah.
it's long and
You're
there's a lot of
gobsmacked,
stuff
like,
that
Mark, what the hell, buddy? You're
Just like,
just blowing my mind
yes,
here. Have you ever
it, it,
have you ever
it's,
felt like, not that you were gonna get killed, but have you ever felt unsafe shooting?
yeah, yeah, many times, yes. Um, and I'm probably not the one to give advice on this. Because I would say you can't have like great gains without great risk. So there are times you have to take risks in order to get something that maybe hasn't been captured before. And I'm not saying to be reckless or careless and like go poke a bear so that you can get a picture of a bear, getting
With
pissed off at you.
selfies and
But
everything, right? Like,
sometimes yeah, no. You still have to have respect for everything, but I think there's also sometimes when you have to think outside of the box, or like I like to think that there is no box, and kind of do things a little bit differently. But I had, I think the one that comes to mind, I spent a lot of time early on here in Florida with a family of sandhill cranes. I don't know if you know the sandhill cranes,
Mhm.
but it was a absolutely amazing experience. I found them my wife and I's anniversary. And I thought, oh, this would be kind of cool. They were on a nest. They had eggs. I said, I think I'm gonna come here because this is right down the street from our house, and I'm gonna photograph them every day, and I'm gonna make a little mini documentary, like on all the trials and tribulations they're gonna have hatching this egg, raising the baby, dealing with all the predators that we have here, snakes, alligators, all these other things. And so I spent like 90 days almost every day with this family of birds, photographing them and learning about them. And I had some absolutely mind blowing experiences to this day that I can't explain with any kind of science or logic. And I can tell you about that too. Halfway through all of this, I arrived one morning at this place, and I found the mother and the chick was in like short grass and some flowers, and it was all covered in dew. And I thought it would be amazing to get some photos of the chick in this short grass. So I broke rule number one in Florida, and that was I laid down and had a low profile, and I put my back to the fresh water, which was a big freshwater area that I knew had some pretty big alligators in it. So there's a few rules I would say again that you follow in Florida. One of them is, you don't have a low profile down at the water's edge because then you're seen as food. You don't put your back to the water either. And then you don't let your children near the water or your animals because they will be taken first. And like then you have the whole problem of trying to defend all of that stuff. So those are a couple of things you don't do. And I was so enamored with the idea of photographing this little chick that I did that. I laid down and I was laying down on a narrow dike that separated two areas of water, maybe 12 or 14 feet. I had my back to one spot and was photographing them. And the male sandhill crane came in really weird. He came in like he would come in if there was a predator around, like he was being defensive. And he was in front of me and he was kind of acting aggressive towards me. And I was like, hey, it's me. Don't you remember, this it's me. I'm here with you every day. And it clicked on me that he wasn't doing this to me. And I kind of looked over my shoulder, and there was about a 12 or 13-foot alligator that had come up out of the water and was about that far from my foot and was about to grab me. And this bird came in and was like saying, "Hey, there's an alligator behind you. Watch
Warning
out."
you.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And yes. So I
Wow.
stood up and did what the bird did, kind of waved my arms around, and the gator went on its way and took off. Um, but yeah, I would say that was probably the scariest altercation that I have had with like some type of predatory
and
animal.
probably like the first and
Um,
last time you'll do that. Like you're not going to do it again.
yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. That's like I
Dude,
said,
that's
I,
crazy.
I broke some of the golden rules that
Yeah.
day. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and almost paid for it, but luckily I had it in tight with that family of person. They,
Yeah.
they,
Yeah.
they kind of protected
That's
me.
crazy.
So
And I would think that even you mentioned like when you go for a shoot, sometimes there can be hundreds of eagles. Like sometimes here we see one, and
yeah,
it feels huge and overwhelming. So I can't even imagine like a literal swarm of them. Is that must be something else?
it is. It's overwhelming in the beginning, but like I said, if you pay attention, and sometimes you just have to pull the lens away and watch,
Yeah.
and kind of it sounds cheesy, but kind of try to become one with your subject and understand them. And then that chaos suddenly makes total sense. And you
Mm.
start to understand all these little behaviors, and again, how to read them and know that they're going to do what they're going to do. Like this morning, I was at one of my favorite spots here in Florida, and it's what we would call osprey season. So all the ospreys are migrating from the north, and they're following a huge migratory fish pattern following their food source. And this morning there was about 30 ospreys in this area, and it's amazing to watch them. But because I've done this for so long, out of the 30, I can see the one that's going to go in the water and get a fish almost all of the time, because they have these little signals that they have. If you don't pay attention, you won't notice those things. So
Hmm.
with wildlife photography, it's about putting yourself in the right place at the right time. And in order to do that, the more knowledge you have on your subject, the more likely you're going to be able to put yourself in the right place at the right time. And you don't spend as much time waiting for something to happen, because
Right.
you're like, oh, I know because of this weather pattern and this time of year, this animal will be here doing this thing. And I want to capture that. And so you go and you follow all that stuff. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's you get into the environment of it all, and you learn, and you decide what you have
absolutely.
to do, and all that kind of stuff. That's
Yes.
Can you tell us? Can we go back to a little bit about your band with your brother and your love of
Yeah,
music,
Yeah.
and how did that play
absolutely.
out? Yeah,
So what did
yeah.
you
Oh,
play?
it was
What about
amazing.
you?
I
Okay.
play guitar. I still do. I have too many guitars probably.
Who tells you that? Mark,
But
whoever's
yeah,
telling you that is wrong. So
well, I'm running out of space to put them places. There's closets full.
Can
In
never
fact,
have too many guitars.
yeah. Well, interesting. My next one, I'm gonna get like a custom made one. I follow this actually a girl on Instagram or that builds guitars in New York, Cindy Guitars. I don't know if it's cool to throw her name out there, but anyways,
Yeah,
she
for sure.
makes she makes amazing guitars out of like old wood that they recycle from New York City, like from a bar, from a
cool.
church, from a street, and she hand makes it all. And some of the stuff she makes is absolutely incredible. So I've already contacted her, given her a deposit, and she's like, I think, a year and a half out on working because she has so many people that want her to make these guitars for them. So that will be my next one. But the music thing, wow, phew, it was an amazing experience, and we did all kinds of crazy stuff. My brother, let me think, he died in 2015. He was the singer. He died of lung cancer at a very young age, at 46. Um, but he was what I would call like a very different thinker. He was the front man, but he was also kind of the brains behind a lot of the things that we did that were kind of different, I would say. Like for instance, he came to me one day and he says, "I have this great idea. Will you do this?" And I was like, "Well, what's the idea?" He's my older brother, and I've spent my whole life with him, so I know at this point I'm not saying yes to anything, because
Yeah.
you're a
Yeah,
wild man.
You've
I got to
let me
fallen
know.
for
flesh
that
this out here.
before.
What are we talking about?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. And he says, "Well, I just tell me you'll do it. It's for the band." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, if it's for the band, I'll do it." And he goes, "Okay, here's what we're gonna do. the next time the radio station does a live broadcast, which this was probably in the 90s, I would guess. So it was a really popular thing for radio stations to go to like a record store or a bar, and they would do a live remote and they would pitch something. I don't even know, like different things, concerts or whatever. He said, so the next time they do this, we're going to pull up on the back of a flatbed truck and we're going to have all of our stuff set up and we're going to interrupt the entire live broadcast. We're going to play our music and then we're just going to take off down the highway like nothing ever happened. And I was like, that I'm looking at him like, okay, this will never happen. So yeah, I'll do this. Yeah, no problem. Like 2 weeks later, he shows up. He's like, "Are you ready?" And I'm like, "For what?" He goes, "The live thing I told you about, where we're gonna interrupt the broadcast." I'm like, "What?" And he like drives around the corner. He's got a flatbed truck with a generator, the PA system, everything set up on the back of this flatbed. I'm like, "Holy
The
shit! How did you get all this stuff?" And he's like, "Don't worry about it. That it's time to go."
Famous last words.
Yes, yes. And he goes, I forgot to tell you, like, we're going to try to do this incognito. Like, we're going to be secret. So here's a ski mask. You got to wear a ski mask. And I'm like, oh my God, we're, we're going to be in so much trouble. We're going to get arrested. So this was in downtown Orlando, and we pull up at a record store in downtown Orlando, and Larry the Cable Guy was doing a live broadcast from the record store. And we interrupt the entire thing. We played like 2 or 3 songs and then drove off down the interstate in rush hour traffic. And the whole time I'm waiting for the police to come, and I'm like,
we're
there's no
pulling this
cops.
off.
How are we not getting arrested? This
It
is
was
really
a
cool.
drive-by rocking.
Yes, that's what he called it. That's
Did
funny
he?
that you said that. Yes. So he started to call the radio station and threaten them and say, the next time you're doing a live broadcast, we're going to do another drive-by rocking. And they're like, oh, wait. And they, this was when you could like easily do like
Just
the
star
return
6 7
call,
find out. Yeah.
call tracing. Yeah, yeah. So they called him back and they said, hey, look, this is a really cool idea. Let's work on this together and we'll just build it up over time. And then at the end, we'll like announce who you are. We'll play your music and we'll give you all these great gigs. And over a period of like 6 months, it went from us like kind of attacking them to us showing up to these huge crowds of people expecting the whole thing. And it went just like that. Like we had this suddenly had this huge following of
That's
people,
great.
and they revealed who we were. They played our music and we played all these amazing gigs with all these like, huge national acts and stuff. And it's absolutely incredible. The best one that we had was we opened a huge outdoor festival they have here every year in Orlando called Earth Day Birthday, and they block off all of downtown Orlando, and they have an all day festival from like 2 o'clock until like midnight, and they have tons of bands. And when we did this one, we went on before Mudvayne, when Mudvayne had just kind of come out, and they had like all of the makeup and stuff on. And I remember thinking, oh my God, these guys are like really heavy. I don't know if we're like a good match, because we were kind of, I, I hate to make comparisons, but we were kind of lighter edge, like more like an Alice in Chains style, like as far as the heaviness went. So I wasn't too sure how that was going to go, but it was fine, and it ended up being 25,000 people, and it's something I'll never forget. Standing on
Wow.
this stage and looking out at Orange Avenue, which went due one direction. I don't know, maybe due east, and it was an ocean of people as far
That's
as I could
crazy.
see down the road. Yeah, absolutely amazing.
What
And
an
our drummer,
experience.
it's interesting to note too, our drummer was Ted Nugent's original drummer. So this guy was 10 years older than the rest of us in the band. So he had a lot of experience, and he was a really cool guy too to actually jam with. So
That's
that was
fun.
kind of like the peak of it. And then
Wow.
from there, it kind of started just to slide downhill, and we all went our
Right.
separate ways.
Did
But
you
it
put
was
out any albums or singles or anything like that?
yeah, and it's all on Spotify, but I don't tell anybody. I put it all on Spotify for my personal consumption, because it's like a time capsule of my brother when he was his happiest and his
Mhm.
healthiest. So it's there just so I don't have to carry it around on a specific
Mm,
device. I can just pull it up on Spotify and listen to our tunes whenever I wanted to, or whenever I want to. And I have them all in my, my like songs list. So it's actually really cool every once in a while to randomly
Here.
hear one of those songs pop up and be able to hear my brother again, like,
yeah.
in his heyday. So it's a cool gift that I think a lot of people in that situation would look at the other way. They'd be like, I don't want to listen to that. It's too painful, but it's a cool thing because it's when he was
Yeah,
his happiest. And
for sure.
Yeah, and it's like this again. It's like this time capsule of him when he was all good and healthy. So
Yeah, what
it's a
a
really
great
cool.
memory and what a great thing to have to listen back on and remember him, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
It's super,
absolutely,
super cool. When did you
absolutely.
guys start playing music together? Like, were you little kids or?
Yeah. Well, I was like 13, I think. Yeah, 13ish, and he was 3 years older than me, so he was 16, and he was in a different band at the time, but we would all kind of play together on the weekends, and it was just honestly, it was a bunch of kids getting together. Yes, I was 13, but it was a bunch of kids getting together, drinking beer, and trying to play like AC/DC songs and stuff like that. From back in the day.
Right.
And I would say that's kind of how we learned, and just kind of grew from there.
Mhm. And so, Mark, you've told me before that you're a big Prince fan, though.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
So tell me a bit about that, and did he influence your musical style or your playing at all, like the guitar and all that?
Absolutely. There was a song that we did in our band. So our band's name was Wrong, as in not right. There was a song at the end where I was like, the end of this song used to be like the end of Purple Rain, where you just kind of have a guitar solo to end it with the wah kicked back. And I'm going to borrow that from Prince. And so I put that in the song that we had. And it, as a direct, I won't say copy, but it was a direct inspiration from Prince himself. In my opinion, I think Prince was one of the better guitar players that I've experienced in my life, and I think he didn't get enough credit for his skills on guitar. But I think it came honestly from the movie Purple Rain. I saw Purple Rain when I was a young teenager, and everything about Purple Rain was like, oh my god, this is amazing! Like this guy is like he's this tiny little guy, but he's so full of energy, and he's
Uh-huh.
like got like this funkiness, but then he's got like this rock and roll. What is happening
Uh,
right now? And then he had like he was surrounded with beautiful women too. And I, being a young man, I'm like, this is cool stuff.
he was a legend.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So I would say it was probably Purple Rain that really kind of locked me into what he was doing and made me aware of him and a fan. And then from there, I would say I just kind of loosely kept tabs on him. I like anytime there was a new album, I bought it. I would listen to it, or CDs probably back then. I never got to see him live, which is
Too
something
bad.
I regret. Yeah, and I remember specifically the day he died. It was when we were doing our traveling, and when we traveled, I told you we got to Colorado. We kind of fell in love, and we stayed there, and we used Colorado as our home base to go further west, like to Washington, California, and Oregon. And we were on the way back from our first trip to Oregon, going along the Columbia River Gorge, and I remember I had on my little phone at the time, it popped up and said, Prince has died. And I remember reading it, going, "What? How's that possible? That guy was like super healthy. What? I don't know what's
Mm.
happening." And and it all kind of unfolded from that time on. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, that was he was a talented dude for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. And you still do a lot of writing of music, do you not? Like I see that you
Yeah,
write all
yeah.
of the music, the backing tracks for all of your reels.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. That's an amazing experience to do too today with modern technology.
Uh-huh.
It's amazing what you can do with an Apple little MacBook Pro.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. What I'll normally do with that kind of stuff is I might start on my guitar because I'm more fluent with the guitar than anything else. And I might come up with my ideas or melodies, and then I'll sit down at a piano and transpose the guitar to piano and play the piano and record the piano into Logic Pro. And then you can change the piano then to whatever you want. You can say, well, what would this sound like if it was a cello or a violin or a trumpet or whatever? And you can change it and kind of get all these different nuances from all these different instruments, and then you can kind of start layering stuff together that way.
Yeah.
But I learned like for the reels, it's interesting. Like you can make a theme that might be what you might think might go good with a bird that's like maybe wading kind of casually in the water, and then that same theme might actually work for an osprey diving into the water as well. So it can kind of trick your brain if that makes sense. Like a specific theme can work in many, many, many places for many different things, and kind of enhance a feeling or a vibe for that reel. So
That's wild.
Yeah, for sure.
How much time do you spend a week? Do you think on doing all the social media stuff and like, is it a full time thing or is it kind of just pick and hunt and peck or? How do you
It,
how
it
do you
is, it is, but I spend as little time on social media as possible. I would rather be creating something and as opposed to like consuming on social media. So a lot of times I might spend a half an hour a day on social media, and that's just to post all my stuff and make sure like nothing is on fire and like there's nobody in trouble because of something. And then I move on and go back to something else. Like a popular trend that's been happening a lot lately is there are so many fake accounts that have duped me, and they lure in women and tell the women that, hey, I've noticed you on my channel. Come talk to me on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And then they kind of love bomb them on WhatsApp and try to get money out of them. And
Yeah.
they will send them photos of me, videos of me. One lady sent me a transcript of the guy calling her on the phone, and the guy was trying his best to imitate my voice. She thinks that they had an AI trained on my voice that was calling her. So there's all these weird phishing things that are happening now. So
Yeah.
it's kind of odd. And Meta, for some reason, won't remove most of these accounts. They will come back and say that they're not violating any of their community guidelines. And I'm like,
Right.
this wait,
It's not me. What do you
this
mean?
look this. Yeah,
It's
it's
not me.
not me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm paying you for this check mark to protect
Yeah.
my identity.
Exactly.
You're not really doing that
Wow.
at all, are you?
Icky and
Yeah.
gross. Like that just so ugh,
It it
yuck.
it is. It's shitty to say the least.
Yeah.
And it's been happening for a little over a year now, and it's getting they're getting more clever because now they can use things like ChatGPT if they can't speak good English to speak good English, and they're using all of these things to make it more and more and more real, to the point where it might become a time where you can't tell the real one from the fake anymore, which is going to be very interesting. Um, which is interesting too. Like with my kids, we have a few safe words in case anything like this happens. Like they know a few things. Like if you get a call saying it's me, you ask for this password, and if it's not given to you, then you know it's not me. It's one of these fake AI thingies.
Mm,
So
Yeah. That's a good
um,
idea. Yeah.
yeah, it's a weird world that
right?
we're
To be
For
like, hey,
we're
sure.
heading
listen, we
that
need a
we're heading
password here,
for.
okay? Come on, guys, listen up. Password.
Yes.
Go.
Yeah, yeah.
That's cool.
Yes,
Yeah. What a
exactly.
weird time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird for
By the
sure.
way,
Hmm.
I love that we just brush past that you're like a multiple best-selling author. I love that.
Yeah.
That's just
Yeah.
just an aside, by the way. Just an aside.
Yeah, just on the
So
Yeah.
hit
side
us with
note.
that. Like,
Yeah.
what are the books you've written?
So this one always is kind of weird to say. So the best-selling book was on how to use a metal detector.
Come on.
And it's no, in its simplest form. Yes, that
Really?
it's a lot more than that, but to like kind of reduce it down to very simple terms, that would be what it was. So I've always been an active writer. I've written and journaled my whole life. I wrote like songs, or poetry, whatever you want to call it. Some short stories here and there. Um, when Amazon introduced their self-publishing platform, I dove right in and said, "Hey, this is great. I can make tons of books because my creative process is very easy as far as writing goes. I can make tons of books. I can publish them without any kind of cost or upfront anything, and
Hmm.
just sit back and see what happens. Maybe something will work." So I started doing it with children's books, and I wrote and illustrated a bunch of children's books, kind of Dr. Seuss style stuff. And they were moderately successful, but I learned really quickly that the children's book market is constantly freshened and revolving new stuff. And it took me a long time to make like one children's book. And I think the amount of time put in wasn't worth the return in that sense. So I started kind of analyzing other things and thinking, well, if I'm going to do this in like a business way, I need to have a book that is kind of evergreen on a subject that doesn't revolve or change a lot. And at the time, I lived at the beach, and every low tide, I was out at the beach with a metal detector, and I was digging up all kinds of crazy stuff. You name it, I found it, and it was an amazing experience. It's kind of like a lot of things in life. Like so many metaphors. It's like a meditative state. You're kind of just walking down the beach, waiting to find something, and you have to dig through a lot of garbage to get to the gold, just like everything else in life. Um, but I started to do that. I started to find amazing stuff, and I thought to myself, well, what if I made a book that was kind of just this really tiny niche on how to metal detect at the beach, how to how to show up and look at the beach and determine if this is going to be worth your time, where to go based on tides and maybe some physical attributes of the way the beach is laid out. And I did that, and I did it in a way that, like, every little lesson came with a real story that kind of gave proof to the lesson that I was trying to teach them. So it was interesting. It was a cool way to teach people, and that book was moderately successful. Like, I was like, wow, this is weird. Why would people be actually even buying this? I didn't think it was that big of a deal. So I sat down and said, okay, what happens if I do like encompass the entire idea of metal detecting slash treasure hunting from the start to the finish, everywhere, everything, every machine, all that stuff. And I made kind of like the metal detecting Bible. And I published it in February. I don't remember which year. And by November of that year, it had gone into the top 200 of all books on Amazon and was beating out New York Times bestsellers.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, again, I was kind of like, this is weird. I got an email one day from Amazon around October that said, "Hey, we've test marketed your book. It works great. We're going to buy 10,000 copies. Expect this much money in your bank account in 48 hours." I was like, this is a bullshit email if I've ever
Right.
seen one.
Yeah.
And 48 hours later, there was the money. I was like, oh, I guess maybe
Oh,
it's weird. I guess it's
that's
real.
crazy.
Yeah. And so I can go back in time now and I can understand why this was a thing and why it worked. So I wrote that book, released it in February. That year, in that summer, there was about 10 reality shows on like Discovery Channel, History Channel, all of these nature channels that were treasure hunting shows where these people were out like with these not, I want to say mythical, but these legend treasures, It was all sensationalized, there's like this treasure chest full of gold buried here and like this old pirate, like had all this cool stories in it. And people watched that stuff on television and they immediately said, I want to dig up some gold. So they would go to Amazon and Amazon would sell them a metal detector. And Amazon knew that people really liked the book I made. So they would upsell them on the book or package the book in it. And there you go. It just took off and went crazy. And that book it was a cool thing to do. It was an amazing thing to see. And like I said, it gave me that freedom. And it also told me a very important lesson that people really connected with my conversational style of writing. A lot of people would write me and say, I feel like I've known you forever. And it's like you're my best friend. And we just sat down on the couch and you taught me all of this stuff. It's amazing. You took this complex topic and made it really easy for me to understand, which was a huge stepping stone for ending up doing what I do now with photography and YouTube. And, I teach people all over the world with photography doing the same concept. I take a complex subject or a complex topic and I try to teach them in an easy to understand way with like real live stories or by taking them with me out to these places. So
Right. And you travel
that,
all over the world doing this, right? Photography and that
yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah.
What do you have coming up? Anything?
Um, so I'm home here for a little while because of the Osprey season. I'm going to Dubai soon. It's photography related. And I don't think I'm allowed to talk about it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm going there, and then I'm going to Africa in January, Greece in January, and then in March, a friend of mine hooked me up with a company that will take you out to Dominica, and you get to swim with humpback whales with their calves. So I'm doing that for my 54th birthday,
So
and
just a few small trips.
Yeah,
just
man.
a few small trips. That's right. Yes. And I just did a bunch. I just did Africa. I was in Italy for a while. Trying to think where else. Canada. Yeah, I've been kind of all over the place, back and forth.
And birds are mostly your interest?
Absolutely. I like all animals, and I will photograph anything. My trip that I had in Italy actually made me fall in love with photographing people. I didn't think that I would really enjoy that, but I like something about being in Italy was different, and I
Mm,
had a lot of fun doing what they would call street photography. So you try to take compelling photos of random people on the street. And that was fun. It was a new way to kind of try to capture light and tell a story of what people were doing instead of animals. Birds are almost always doing something. There are very few times that they're just sitting there still. So they're always like kind of a challenge to photograph, and it's always
Right.
fun to kind of try to figure out what they're doing. Other animals, like when you're in Africa, a lot of times lions, when you're up on lions, they're sleeping. They're big cats. They sleep most of the time during the day. So they can be slow, lethargic, sleeping, not doing anything for 2 or 3 days at a time. So, but birds, for some reason, they're always busy, and I've always liked birds ever since I was a little kid. I've always kind of been enamored with them. So, and they've always kind of followed me around and done weird stuff that I thought was normal until I started meeting people and telling them about it. And they're like, yeah, no, that doesn't happen to other people. So,
So when's
yeah.
the book coming? When's the autobiography coming?
Actually, I have a book that I'm supposed to turn in January called The Spirit of Birds. And it will be a coffee table book, about 250 pages on kind of like my Instagram posts. It'll have a photo of a bird and then maybe kind of like an introspective story relating to that bird, and how their lives often parallel ours, and you can kind of get through maybe some tough times by understanding that their lives are tough too. And sometimes what you think might be a hard day is nothing compared to what they go through. So
Interesting.
this won't be self-published. This is with an actual publisher. I signed a deal with them maybe 2 months ago to produce this book. But
Nice.
I think it's not out until 2027, if I remember the timeline correctly. So,
Nice. Congratulations. That's
thanks. Yeah,
exciting. Yeah.
yeah, very exciting. It'll be fun. I did another photography book on my own. My favorite bird, the ospreys. It was very well received. I ran a Kickstarter to fund it. Uh, I think I needed 15,000 to have the book printed, and I think the Kickstarter was 45 by the time it was done. So by the time it was done, it was already profitable. What I
Nice.
didn't anticipate was like 10 pallets of books showing up at my house and having to ship them all out by myself.
Right.
That was a lot of work, but my son and I and my daughter-in-law and my daughter all kind of buckled in, and regretfully, not regretfully,
Yeah.
but like working with that many cardboard boxes, your hands get cut up and all that good
Yeah,
stuff. But
Yeah.
we got it all done. So
cool.
Good. Mark, if anyone's interested in joining you to learn about photography, how can they get in touch with you, or where is that information available?
that's on my website, photographyworkshopsandtours.com. That's pretty
Okay.
easy to find. You can just Google Mark Smith Photography and you'll find me.
Right. We'll link to you down here too at the end. But
Cool.
yeah.
Appreciate it.
Mark, you have incredible stories. I wish we could talk to you for many more hours, but we'll let you get back to your life.
Absolutely. Like, wild
Yeah.
story, dude. Like blowing my mind here.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us. Really, really appreciate you making time for us today, and all the best, and we'll continue to follow you on your journey.
Absolutely. Thank you for
Thanks,
having me.
Mark.
I appreciate it.